Today, I want to tell you the story of how I went from a kid who enjoyed taking photos but had no clue what he was doing to having my photography be viewed millions of times on the internet, all before I turned 16 years old. And hopefully this can be an inspiration to you that regardless of how old you are or how much experience you have or what gear you have, you too can take amazing photos that you can be proud to call your own. Let's get into this. Let's start by going back to the beginning. As long as I can remember, me and my family have loved the outdoors. We love nature, we love hiking, we love going to Colorado and climbing mountains. I actually climbed my first 14,000 foot peak in Colorado when I was only 12 years old. And from then, I just fell in love with being in the wilderness, being in beautiful environments, seeing beautiful mountains, beautiful streams, beautiful trees. I just love the outdoors and love the beauty of our world. And that started to spark up with me the idea of maybe getting into photography. So I started taking a lot of photos on my phone, but eventually I wanted to be able to get better, more realistic, more beautiful photos. And so I decided it was time to invest in a professional camera. I got my first camera when I was 13 years old, and it was a Canon 7D with the Yongnuo 50mm 1.8 lens. I had so little money that I couldn't even afford the actual Canon 50mm 1.8, which was only $100. I had to get the $50 knockoff Yongnuo version because I was 13, I had barely any money, and I was just starting to explore the ideas of taking photos and being a photographer. And for months, my photos were horrible. I didn't know how to edit. I just would make all my pictures like super warm, just crank the warmth slider and crank the contrast, and it looked bad, and I wasn't any good, and honestly, my pictures probably looked better on my phone. But I fell in love with doing it. I loved carrying my camera around, I loved capturing photos, I loved seeing the natural depth of field from a professional camera, and I just was hooked. So I kept on taking photos, Eventually, I started upgrading and getting a couple more lenses, and I eventually upgraded full frame and got a Canon 6D, and I was just hooked. I loved doing it, and I wanted to do more, and I wanted to explore and get more photos. But eventually I fell into this trap where I just started to get a little disappointed with photography. Not that my photos were bad. Honestly, my photos were continuing to get better every single day. But the problem was none of my photos looked quite professional like I wanted them to. Like they didn't look good enough to where I could feel like I could put them in a gallery or put them online. They still seemed kind of just like amateur photos in my eyes. But this all changed in the summer of 2021 when I was 15 years old. Me and my family went on a 2-week vacation to 4 national parks, and that honestly changed the world of photography for me. Now, before we continue, I do want to say that this is not a gear doesn't matter video. I'm not here to tell you that gear isn't important, that you shouldn't care about your gear. Because I think gear is important, and I love getting new gear, and I make gear reviews on this channel. But I do want to say that I think there are 3 things that are far more important to your photography than your gear. And that is what made the difference on this trip. And that is being at the right place at the right time and editing the right way. Let's start with being at the right place. Like I said, I went to 4 national parks, but the national park that made the biggest impact on my photography was Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. To this day, I would say it's probably the most beautiful place I've ever been in my whole life. The cascading mountains covered in snow over these beautiful fields of bison and pronghorn, rivers flowing through. It's just an exceptionally beautiful place. And as someone who lives in the very boring flat lands of Oklahoma, it was just so refreshing to be in such a beautiful, mesmerizing place that just really overcame me with how wonderful and majestic it was. So here's my first piece of advice. Maybe instead of spending your money to buy a new camera or a new lens or just to invest in more gear, maybe save up some money and go on a trip and go somewhere that speaks to you. Maybe it's like me and you like going to the mountains and seeing the beautiful, majestic peaks, but maybe for you it's like New York City, or maybe it's the beach, or maybe it's the Grand Canyon. I don't know where that is, but whatever place you see photos and you feel inspired to take better photos, go there. Go. Get in your car, drive somewhere, fly somewhere, use the money and the time that you've saved up to spend it going somewhere that really inspires you and speaks to you, and that's where you're gonna get the best photos. You're not gonna get amazing photos probably in your backyard. Like me, there's not really anything interesting to photograph in my area. And that's a little frustrating sometimes, but instead I want to take my time to make sure I go places. I go to Colorado every single year. I'm planning vacations with my family. I'm saving my money to really experience things that are going to make a real difference in my photography. Now, location doesn't just apply to going somewhere beautiful, it's also knowing what are the best spots to capture that beautiful place. Take, for example, this photo I took in Grand Teton. This is the most famous photo I've ever taken. See, I posted this photo back in 2021 on the site Unsplash. Now, Unsplash is this free stock photo site that I used to go to all the time for inspiration, and decided to post some of my photos from my national parks trip on this website. And as of today, this photo has over 20 million views. Part of that is because I'm in the beautiful location, which is Grand Teton National Park. But another part of it is that I found this really specific spot. This place is called Snake River Overlook, and you have a perfect foreground, midground, and background. You have the mountains covering up the background, you have the river flowing in the middle, and you have the beautiful pine trees up in the front. It's one thing just to get photos of a pretty spot, but it's also another thing to find just the right place to capture it in the most beautiful way possible. Now, there's a couple ways you can do this. You can use things like Google Maps to find overlooks or to find sites that people have posted for photographic locations, or you can look on social media, or you can ask people where they took photos, and there's other ways to find the right spots. But just mindlessly walking around trying to take photos might not result in the best possible photos. However, if you do your research, if you do your due diligence to find those perfect locations, you can find some beautiful spots to take some amazing photos. But this leads me on to what I also think is just as important as being in the right place, which is being in the right place at the right time. You see, this spot, while it's gonna be beautiful any time of the day, really is special because I got this photo right at sunrise. If this photo was taken in the middle of the day, it would have been a lot less colorful, a lot more dull, a lot more bland. But because I got up early before the sun rose, drove to this overlook, and got my camera ready as the sun was rising and just glowing on the trees in the mountains, I got a beautiful photo. And I was the only person in the spot. No one else was getting up early to go there. So I'd say those perfect golden hour sunrises and sunsets. Take some time, sacrifice a little bit of sleep, and go find the perfect time to get these photos. So that's the other thing that made this photo completely change for me, was getting up, getting that early morning photo, and that's why it's so special and just pops more than most other photos taken in the middle of the day. But the third, and I think often most overlooked thing that is important in photography is editing. Now, I'm not telling you to just go crazy with Photoshop and start putting in a new sky and changing the color of the trees and just going crazy with everything you're doing. But I do think there is a tasteful and realistic way that you can edit your photos to look pretty. And this is what I invested so much time in. Like I said, I'm not in a pretty location. I don't have a lot of things to photograph around me that are gonna be really pretty landscapes. But what I do when I'm at home is I watch YouTube videos, I do research, I look at beautiful photos, and I figure out how I can edit them in a beautiful way. I learn from people who have gone to pretty places. I've learned from people who've been doing photography for a long time. I look at their photos and I find what makes them pop. I find what makes them really look special, and then I learn from that and apply it to my own photos. I think there's nothing wrong with, to a certain extent, kind of copying photographers at the beginning. You're trying to learn from them, you're trying to grow your skills, and over time, you'll refine your own style, but I think it's so important just to start taking photos and to start learning how to edit them beautifully. Because the original photo from this photo that I love isn't bad, but it's a little bland, it's a little dull, it doesn't quite pop like I'd want it to. But I was able to edit this photo to the point where it just really captured what I actually saw. Because in person, this was a beautiful, colorful moment that I didn't feel like perfectly was captured on the camera. But I think one part of that is learning to do things like split toning, bringing out the colors of the yellow and the green and the orange, and just learning how to make them balance well and to not look overdone, but to just really look naturally beautiful. Another thing is learning how to use masks. Like in this photo, I did some stuff with the mountains to make them a little bit brighter than the rest of the scene, because again, our eyes were focused on the mountains, and it kind of just is a better way of showing what I actually saw. These things are incredibly important, and I think that most likely you don't have every single day of the year to be in a beautiful location. Take time to research, to practice, to watch YouTube videos, to learn from the best, and then you'll be ready to apply that whenever you go into these beautiful places when you find time to capture beautiful moments. So that's what I did. I put the time in, I went to beautiful spots, and the craziest thing is I shot that photo with a Canon 6D, an old camera from 2012 that's only a couple $100 now, and a kit 28-135 lens. That lens you can find probably for less than $100. It was a cheap, low quality kit lens for that camera, and it captured these photos. Now they're not the most sharp, they're not the most free of imperfections. What they are is they're special because I was at the right place at the right time, and I edited it the right way. So who cares what gear you have? Who cares what camera you have? Who cares how much money you have? Who cares how old you are? Who cares where you live? What you should care about is finding those things that inspire you and learning from people who have gone before you and capturing beautiful moments. And now, to this day, my photos on Unsplash, which I haven't posted on in years, have over 80 million views. They've been downloaded over 400,000 times and been featured everywhere on the internet. I get texts from people to this day showing my photos being shown in websites and on videos and in reviews, and my photos are continually being used all over the internet because I took the time as a 15-year-old to invest in my skills as a photographer. Now, this is my story, and I'm not saying that everyone's going to experience the same amount of views on their photos that I did, but honestly, the views don't even matter that much to me. What matters to me is that I have photos that I'm proud of. I have photos that I can print out. I have photos that I can look at and go, man, am I proud that I was able to get that photo? And I'm happy to share it with everyone I meet. I'm happy to share the experience I've had. And I'm happy to capture the beauty of this world. And it just really makes me fall in love with photography. So get out there, take photos, go on trips, learn, experience new things, and I promise you, you won't regret it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that this was helpful. If you have any questions about my journey growing up as a young photographer, or what I learned, or what I continue to learn to this day, please let me know in the comments below. I'll see you guys later.